Students are prepared for a world that doesn't exist anymore. Now is the time to unleash a new learning paradigm.
Wow, it's finally happening. Relearn 2020 is starting. And we are so incredibly happy to welcome you all to this first Learning Innovation Festival. And it is about 8 or 9 months ago that this idea came up when many of you asked us to start kind of an online event around remote learning. And within 10 days, we put together some amazing thought leaders from around the world to give some actionable advice, input for school leaders, teachers, anybody that was interested in remote learning. And we had such a wonderful response to this first mini pilot that we just knew the time is now to start something big, something meaningful. And the idea came up to create this festival for everybody that's looking for the tribe of learning innovators around the world. Okay, let's do this. Our journey started about 5 years ago on a trip to Asia. Our oldest son, Luca, by that time was 3 years old, and Yona was 1 year old. And my wife and I, we were wondering about what is going to happen to them in their school life, in their general life, in their future. And I looked into their eyes and I was wondering, what will they ask me maybe 10 years from now when they know that I am and I have been an entrepreneur all my life, changing companies, sectors, industries that were not working out anymore. And they would have asked me, so Dad, what have you done to actually change our world and change our schools, our school systems, so that we can actually live and understand a world that we're actually living in? And that was the moment where we just knew that we had to do something about school and education. 2 years ago, also little Mila joined us, and it became evident that everything needs to change. So I looked into education systems around the world, and I found many amazing people that were already on a journey to change education, to transform systems, to innovate the learning in this world. But there was no big breakthrough yet. So I was wondering, what is really happening? We need to look into the research. What's happening in this world? And one of the first things that came to my attention was actually that 76% of high school seniors do not feel that they are actually pursuing the purpose in life. They don't even know who they are and what they want to do in their near future. Another amazing fact is that 77% of all teachers feel that they are in an innovative, hostile environment. So even if we want to change, it seems that from the surrounding community, it's just not wanted at points from different stakeholders within schools or education environments. And then another very important fact made me think a lot, and that is basically that in the next 10 years, almost half of all our kids that are in school right now, 1.5 billion kids, 800 million people will be displaced by automation. So if that's happening, then is everything that can be standardized, can be automized by 2030, then our education systems are creating actually the biggest dead end for humanity. And I continued with my research to understand that actually we are not living anymore in a world that we used to know. This world was that you basically came out of school, you went to university, your learning more or less stopped or went down to a very limited level, and you started one job, one career for a lifetime. But the reality is today is that actually we have to reinvent ourselves over and over, and the next generations will pass every 2 years, maybe every 18 months, a new career. So lifelong learning and preparing yourself continuously for what's happening in the future is going to be the status quo. And I think Yuval Noah Harari, he actually puts everything into one phrase, and that is, for the world of 2050, you'll above all need to reinvent yourself again and again. So with all this pre-research, we actually started to look around the world for the most innovative schools, and we researched more than 100 schools in all different continents and countries of this world. And it was amazing the amount of knowledge, the amount of innovation that was already happening around the world. But that happened in fragmented places, in fragmented satellite settings, and not accessible for everybody in the world. So it became clear that aggregating all this amazing best practices would be a huge advantage to our world. One of the most amazing things that started to happen was that by aggregating all that information, we found out that there are by now 25 different learning methodologies that any learner could actually dive into and thrive for life. So, some of them we all know, like project-based learning, but there are so many others like experience-based learning, challenge-based learning, nature-based learning, phenomenon-based learning, just to call a couple of them. So today, if a teacher or a learning guide would have actually in their backpack the possibility to motivate and to guide a learner with a whole set of different learning methodologies, learners will be just loving to learn for life. And another wonderful thing happened. We were basically surrounded first by about 20, 30 thought leaders from around the world. I think we are now close to 400 learning innovators and thought leaders, and everybody is coming together to actually build a new learning paradigm. During the next 2 weeks of Relearn, we have more than 200 amazing speakers that will contribute with inspiring keynote speeches and interactive workshops around the new learning innovation elements, many of them already forming part and being core of the new paradigm. So all of you are invited to participate, to contribute, to co-create this new paradigm, because only through a worldwide crowdstorming effort we will be actually able to transform, to positively change education worldwide. If you're interested in it, then have a look. There will be a specific session on the Alliance, which is basically the coming together, the movement of learning innovators around the world that are all together building this new paradigm. So let's have a quick look at what has happened so far in this collaborative journey towards a new paradigm. As I explained before, we have already gathered the best practices of more than 100 of the most innovative schools around the world and have put them into an aggregated matrix so that everybody can have access to what's happening right now around the world. Furthermore, we have research studies and surveys from close to 30 countries, and we have gathered more than 600 research articles and reports to basically support the best practice findings and the evidence that we have seen around the world. And last but not least, we are now gathered by and surrounded by more than 400 thought leaders from different directions, whether it is amazing, inspiring leaders in education, in entrepreneurship, psychology, neuroscience, architecture, and many other areas that are important for the new paradigm in order to co-create and develop what is needed for the future. I think just to give a bit of a context of what has happened and what is some of the developments. So I think the most important shift that we are seeing is that we are coming from a standardized education system, which we have explained before. And right now we are on a journey that goes from personalized learning, understanding a learner in itself, by itself, going to a co-created learning paradigm that where a learner together with the teacher or the learning guide or the tutor, mentor, facilitator is actually co-creating a learning journey. And all that goes to the end scenario, which is basically personal learning, self-created, self-directed learning, where any learner is able to basically take their own learning path into her or his hands. So far, the development of the new paradigm is clustered into 3 areas, and the 3 areas is preparing the paradigm, then implementing and supporting the paradigm. In total, there are 21 elements that so far have been established, and they are continuously growing and built out together with the alliance around the paradigm. The powerful part of the paradigm is that we actually make it open source, open access, available to anyone in the world. So already today, you can go online and you search for the paradigm elements, and any person can basically go into the universe of the 21 elements and basically pick and choose what works best to a certain school, a certain university, any kind of learning environment or learning institution, and accelerate their innovation through the existing best practices that have been aggregated from around the world. So we are on a very clear mission, and the mission is let's positively change education together. we know that in 2020 and forward looking, it's only possible to do this as a big growing group of passionate people around the world. And basically what we see is that we want to empower learners, educators, schools, and governments through this new learner-centered paradigm that on the one side looks into purpose-inspired, so learners find out who they are and then can build a personal learning journey on top of that new understanding, new self-awareness. And our journey is pretty clear. We are right now starting to build learning hubs, and I will explain the concept of a learning hub in a second. So we help partners around the world, be it entrepreneurs, be it foundations, be it governments, to build learning innovation hubs as the lighthouse for positive educational change. And through these hubs, and also through the new learning innovation elements of the paradigm, we help school, especially school leaders, and also obviously educators, to embrace the next steps on the innovation journey. And the big goal in the next 10 years is to reach 100 million learners around the world, to basically self-understand and go on a journey of self-directed learning. And this is empowered through a learning platform, which basically has in the core a portfolio, a learning portfolio, where learners basically can, parallel to say classical credentials, have a holistic understanding of themselves.
Another creator, another person that is doing something different, but the fact that we could do something that correlated, and I showed my talents and he showed his, and we could create something together, and it wasn't like hard or boring, like it was actually fun. And I think that's important, to like know how to work with other people, and especially with your friends.
The teachers or the learning guides are a lot more fun here. They are happy and like excited. If I would have to describe Learnlife with 3 words, it would be amazing, fun to learn, and not as strict as normal schools.
So me looking from where I was before to where I am now, it's a massive, like a dramatic change. I would say it's a learning base that people go to learn more skills for adulthood and the future, instead of learning 100-year-old methods.
I think I've been growing the most in soft skills with people and collaborating with other people and being a better teammate. And just from the beginning until here, the whole time, I've been working on that a lot.
I really love to mix creativity and activism. So my idea with them was like also like creating meaningful experiences. So we start to work here, like with the cameras, with animation, with the stop motion, and it became more like, I don't know, like one of their favorite places.
It's really fun, and I understand that like you don't have to have the classic tests and stuff like that to really learn. And I feel like I learned a lot more here in these 3 months than I learned combined in all my other schools.
I would say Learnlife is community. It's openness, freedom in education, and it really is finding your life's purpose.
What you just have seen is our first Learning Hub in action. 2.5 years ago, when we were on the way with the first thought leaders around the world to build and think about this new paradigm, there was one core element missing, and that was putting it actually into practice. For me, entrepreneurship is all about, making things happen, putting them onto the ground. So we found an 1,200 square meter space in the middle of Barcelona, and we emptied it completely. We made a white space out of it, and the idea was, give learners everything from scratch. So everything is possible. It's learner-centric, and basically architects and designers, they were diving into the new forms of learning, and their objective was to connect learners' desires and the way that this new learning actually is lived every day into spaces and environments and studios and labs. And the interesting part of it is that actually today it is a multiple modular form. So you can actually create and build and launch a learning hub in many different ways. You can offer it for afternoon programs for learners that come out of schools, public schools, private schools, and just want to experience for a couple of afternoons the new ways of learning. It is available for school visits, so that an entire school class can come for a day and experience a new learning culture and all the possibilities that the new learning has to offer. And obviously, it is an amazing place for all the people that basically have not really found their spot in life. They have not yet found the connection to a calling or a sense of purpose, and they can, over a couple of months or a year or 2 years, basically find a deep sense of what to do next in life, and obviously connect to self-directed learning. So Barcelona is a combination of 15 completely creative, innovative learning environments, learning spaces, studios, labs. So a combination of multimedia spaces, design thinking labs. You have a food lab, you have maker spaces for wood, for art, for fashion, for electronics, and many other different settings. And learners basically have the availability of digital environments, machines, 3D printers, laser cutters, CNC machines, the latest editing studios, sound studios, to explore any kind of learning that they need for a certain challenge, a certain project, something that connects with them in this moment of time. Besides Barcelona, we are now starting to expand learning hubs around the world, and I think one of the most important and impressive projects is happening in Germany, in Hamburg, where we are building together with some partners of ours a 10,000 square meter lighthouse for lifelong learning, and it sits in Hamburg. And the wonderful part about it is it's completely connected to nature. It is sustainable. It is built with a lot of wood materials, and it is for any age between the age of 0, 1 year old till 100, 103, 108, how old we are getting in the future. And then some of the latest projects that we have is that we designed a pop-up learning hub. So it's a passive house that can be constructed within 8 weeks, 2 months, maybe 10 weeks, and can be placed into any school yard or any outdoor space. It is, again, completely sustainable, and it can, on the one side, work as a perfect solution for all the space issues around the pandemic right now. So you can expand your space offering to learners. And at the same time, it is a fully equipped studio, creative space, whatever you want to empower your learners with. So in the last 18 months, we have been overwhelmed with interest from around the world to build up these learning innovation hubs, because every person that have once experienced the new learning in this hub sees that it is a mindset widener. Some would say it's like, changing the society through these kind of hubs. And right now we are looking into building the next group of hubs in 2021, and then further grow it to any country, any region, any city where we find partners to basically make a fast change in education and learning happening. Okay, it's time to get going with our festival. I want to leave you with one of the most important numbers in my life, and that is 750,000. 750,000 hours is our average life. So that's when we get more or less 81 years. And this is the amount of hours that we have on this planet. And for me, it's a very important number, because today we have 24 hours. Now we spend half an hour together. So every hour becomes so meaningful if one can size the amount of hours that we have in this life. And it shows us that, whatever we do, we should, make an impact. And we have this one wonderful life. So I can only say, let's positively change education together. And it's happening really now. Our time is now.